Hello, everybody. Welcome to this session of our Essential Skills webinar series from the University of Michigan Flint Thompson Library. My name is Liz Svoboda. I am the Instruction and Outreach Librarian, and today's topic is Google Calendar. So what we're going to cover in this session is basically a really short description of what Google Calendar is, how to get to your calendar, the difference between your calendar and other calendars, creating an event and a meeting, integrations that are available with Google Calendar, and we'll also touch on searching as well. So Google Calendar is it's a personal calendar, but also meeting manager that is attached to your university Google account. So it's attached to your Gmail, and it's one of those apps that are in Drive as well. It allows you to create events and meetings with reminders across different devices. So you're able to do that on a web browser, but also on your phone or a tablet through an app you can download. If you have an Android device, most likely you already have these apps on you or on your device. With iPhones, you'll actually have to download them and integrate them. It will allow you to easily schedule meetings and invite others to those meetings within U of M Flint. It's integrated into the campus's contacts, but you're also able to invite people who are not associated with the university as well. And there are integrations with other Google apps, with Drive, with Meet, but also with programs like Zoom and Canvas as well. So we'll touch on those for a little bit. So there's a few different ways you can get to Google Calendar from a web browser. Again, there is always that app version for phones or tablets, but you can log into your Gmail account, and I'll show you that in a little second. You could go directly to calendar.google.com and log in with your university credentials. It's also, if you use Chrome as your web browser, you can also log into the browser itself, and Calendar will show up in the apps menu. So let's take a look at what those look like here. All right. So starting with your Gmail account, if you've already logged in here, you can get to it either through your Google Apps menu up in the corner. And these you can actually kind of move around and rearrange. So I'm in my calendar all the time, so I've kind of moved it towards the top. There's also an integration in your Gmail inbox with this little side panel called the calendar side panel, basically. And you can move in between here, between like notes to yourself, contacts, as well as tasks, but the calendar is one. And you can set this to have just your calendar. You can add additional calendars to this. And there's also a different view called schedule, which kind of lists out events and things in a sequence. Or I personally like just the day schedule, so that you can kind of see if there's any gaps in your calendar. So like I was able to eat lunch today, for example, in between all of my various meetings. With this, you can actually scroll through some days. So this is tomorrow, Friday. You'll see that I have an additional calendar on here because it's a different color. This is my personal calendar versus my work calendar. You can also like jump ahead to different weeks or days, even months ahead. So for example, if I wanted to see what's going on October 10th, I can see that I definitely have, a little reminder and a couple of meetings that are coming up here as well. And then to revert back to everything, you just hit today. The other nice thing about this is that you can actually click on this little arrow icon, and it will open up Google Calendar in a new tab for you. So if you do want to kind of see what's going on with Google Calendar, you can do that. Okay. So this is what Google Calendar does. This is if you went to calendar.google.com and logged in, this is what you would be brought up initially. If you are logged into Chrome and you're using Chrome as a browser, anytime that you open up a new tab or window, is the Google Apps menu in the other side, and you'll notice that calendar is listed down a little bit farther. You can't really edit how everything is laid out in this particular menu, but you can do that when you're logged into your Gmail account and on Gmail itself. Okay. So on the actually, when you're in the full version of Calendar, You can navigate through the cute little month version here. I have mine set to just a week for visibility purposes, but you can change this to say if you just wanted to see what was going on in one day, there's that week. You can see a month as well. So if you're kind of trying to plan things out and see what's going on that way, you do also have a year, which is a little much personally for me and my small screen at this point. But you can also even do like a schedule, which is kind of going to see that list of things, not necessarily on that, kind of time frame or like week view. So I personally like week. From here, you can also have some integration. So if there's any like sticky or notes that you have those tasks that are integrated. So if anybody is using Google Tasks, this is a nice integration because you can actually like assign tasks to respond to emails or to do other things, and you can assign them times. So today I'm supposed to get back to a student and email them at 4 just to kind of prompt myself to do that. And you'll see I have a couple of other ones that are coming up later this week too that I'm like kind of setting aside, say, Liz, you need to do this at this time. So for those of you who are maybe working on assignments or trying to kind of schedule out time, this is one way to do that. Okay. In general, you just have a few different calendars kind of already set up. So you have your one that is associated with your university account. It should have your name, your official name through the university listed there. You can edit a little bit of this. So for example, if you want to change the colors, I've got this lovely pink, but if I wanted to make it purple or blue or peacock or something like that, I could. You can also share this calendar with others as well. So it gives you a description and you can change the name a little bit. It shows who the organization is. You can see if you want to make it available to more people. So for example, I have to, because I have some scheduling software associated with the library that needs this setting. And I also like share it with some of my colleagues who, want to know where I am and want to be able to see that. But I only have allowed it to them to see if I'm free or busy, or they can see, all the event details. So it's a little privacy consideration there. You can share it with some specific people. So you'll see that I've got a couple of my colleagues who I've shared it with. And you can also even set up like kind of specific or default notifications for events that are coming out. And there's some other instances down here and integrations that you can do. Okay. So this is your initial one here. If I go back and if I wanted to add calendars or create another one, I can do that here. And you'll see that I've got tasks available. I'm not going to, and then I also have other calendars down at the bottom. So these are calendars that have been shared with me by other people on campus or other departments on campus. So for example, if I choose reference desk, this is going to be a shared calendar that all of the librarians use. So we kind of can see what everybody's doing without having to search for individual people and kind of pull that up. There are some that are going to be created by like the finance and payroll office. So if I was approving time through the university, for example, I might want to put this on. You can also search for other calendars. So if I click on the plus button here, I can create a new calendar. And this is how it would add in something to my calendar list. I can subscribe to a calendar. So if I know that there is one out there, I can search for that. I can also browse calendars of interest, which is really nice. So for example, regional holidays, if I wanted to find holidays in the United States, let's scroll down here a little bit, pardon. This is going to show that I can see public holidays and other holidays. So for example, Christmas, Labor Day, Memorial Day, 4th of July. I won't have to like add those onto my calendar myself. I can just open this up and say, oh yeah, 4th of July is coming up. I probably am going to need to like kind of put an away message on my Google email, for example. So that's one way you can do that. There are additional calendars that are kind of created by Google. So if you have some religious holidays you'd like to put on there, you can do that. They have sports and phases of the moon, which are kind of nice. And a lot of these are kind of based on particular leagues in the world. So kind of some fun things that you can do. You could also, add in calendars in a couple of different ways as well. All right. So to create an event, there are a few different ways you could do it. And you can create events from this, side tab within your calendar, within your inbox in Gmail. But if you can also do it here. So for example, if I wanted to create a meeting for 2 p.m. this Friday, I can click on it and it will show this initial kind of really basic version of this. So I can add a title. I could say that I'm going to actually be out of office on this day. I can add a Google Meet conferencing right from here. I can also start adding guests. So if I'm going to try to meet with a colleague, I can add them in there. I can also add rooms or locations. These work really well with addresses from like Google Maps or like actual addresses for like rooms that are in the university or buildings that are in the university. It doesn't necessarily work so well, but you can still, add them in. You can also add any description or attachments. And these include, you can format them in a variety of ways. You could even create meeting notes in here or add an attachment that is, linked to Google Drive. Now, this is the really basic one here. If you want more options, you can actually hit this down here and it opens up this view where you have a little bit more space to kind of work. It has all the same functionality. Like it does add that make it a Zoom meeting, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But you're able to, add additional notifications. So for example, if I wanted to give myself an hour notice before this event, I could do that as well. And down below, you have a little bit more space in which to kind of type options. You also are able to make these repeating or recurring events. So right now, it does not repeat. You don't need to do anything. It has a couple of standard ones. So if this is something you're going to put in every day on your calendar, weekly on Friday, monthly on the fourth Friday, annually, every weekday, there's options that are kind of basic, but you can also customize them. So for example, if I'm going to do this like every 2 weeks on Friday, and this event is only going to last through the end of October, for example. I'm going to name it just so that I know that I'll be able to delete this later. And this is also where you can add guests to an invite. So for example, if I'm going to meet with my colleague Emily Newberry on this date, once and I can give her some permissions on what to see. So if I'm going to allow her to invite others, if I want her to be able to modify the event, I can add that. I at least would see the guest list so that they know who all is invited to this room or to this meeting, but that's there. And then the kind of busy versus default. This is like something that you could be free or busy. And you could also, if you have your calendar set to more private or more public, you could change this to a private event too in your calendar. Just kind of depends on what you want to do. Now, you should all have the Google Meet video conferencing added in automatically. That is part of the Google Suite thing that's in here, or the Google apps that are there. You can also add attachments and like pick from Google Drive. So for example, this is starting with my recent option. So if I was going to say meet with Emily and we were going to talk about this presentation that she's giving on systematic reviews, I can actually insert this and add this in as an attachment so she kind of knows what we might be talking about in this example. Or if it's like, if you have an agenda or minutes or something that need to be added into this meeting, you can add them in directly to this meeting. If it's a recurring meeting, you're going to make sure that it's the correct link, but it's pretty it's pretty easy to do that. Now, again, Google Meet should be automatically there, in addition to those Google apps and like connecting documents in the Google Drive. With Zoom, you're actually going to have to take some steps to add it on yourself. And luckily, ITS down at Ann Arbor has a really good kind of list of all the different add-ons that you can have, and it will link out to how to actually add Zoom into Google as an add-on. So if you're more comfortable with the Zoom interface and how that works instead of Google Meet, you are able to go in and add Zoom and attach that to your Google Calendar, which I have already done because, again, most likely, or most of my meetings happen via Zoom at this point rather than Google Meet. All right. So with this, I am going to save, and then there should be a notification that says, yes, please send this to Emily. Let her know that I'd like to meet with her at this time. Then it's going to show up in my folder right here, or in my calendar right here. Okay. The other, now if I wanted to cancel this, I can click on this and hit delete up here at the top. I can also edit it right now. If you are sent an invite, you're going to be able to respond, yes, I will be there. No, I won't. Or I might be there. It kind of depends. You should get an inbox invite. So actually, let me pull up one from my inbox at the end. And this looks like basically what it looks like when you've accepted a meeting. So it allows you to do that, or allows you to kind of see everything and information about this particular meeting that's coming through. So I've got a meeting later this afternoon with a committee on the campus. Okay. So you will get an email notification if you get invited. So you also, if you are going to delete an event that you have invited others to, you can delete a single event, and especially if you have multiples in a series. For just this event, you could delete all of the events, or maybe you've met twice in this series and like, oh, we don't really need to have these recurring meetings. So you could do this next, or you could schedule one meeting and then everything that comes after it. It just depends on what you want to do. I will say, before I cancel this, let me show you. So we set this to happen every other Friday. So this is starting on the 22nd, and then nothing on the 29th, but then it does show up again on the 6th, right? So it does add that recurring, and say, for example, if I wanted to cancel this one and all the following events, it's going to delete out, and you can send a message to your guests, for example. So I'm going to send that, and then there's not going to be anything else on my calendar afterwards. Okay. And before I forget, let me delete this one also for Emily so that she knows we're not actually meeting here. Okay. All right. So that's a really basic overview of kind of starting an event, deleting an event. You can actually search for an event. So for example, I was trying to figure out how often I met with a particular student or with a particular group. Up at the very top here, you can search either by a person's name. So for example, I'm going to search for Emily's email address and see how many people or how many times I've met with her in the past few months. And you'll notice that there's quite a few things that we're involved in together. You could search by a particular group name. So this is a committee that I work with pretty frequently. And I was actually chair. So you'll notice that I have some reminders to myself in this group. There's a few upcoming ones. So later today, actually, as well as others. And you'll see that any of them that are kind of full, these I've accepted. These other ones, I will need to accept yes or no, or say maybe. And when you are invited, you can say just this event or all following events. And so I'm going to say all following as well. And that will should change these all over to solid colors a little bit later. Okay. So that's basically searching, and you can again cancel out this and go back. There are some other integrations and settings that you can do with Calendar. These are all up in the top. You can talk about density or color. You can print out a calendar if you're more of a tactile person. You can even go in and look to see time zones. For example, it usually should take default to whatever your computer is set at. but you can, allow desktop notifications, snoozing, all sorts of things in here. You can even, if you are kind of wanting to set work hours for yourself, this is more for like faculty and staff, you can actually set like I'm in the office, or maybe these are at home days, and people will be able to see that as well. Okay. So lots, and then there's also like settings for these individual calendars down below as well. Okay. Any questions and answer or questions at this point? Oh, I almost forgot. So if you don't know when you want to meet with someone, and say, oh, just look at my calendar and set up something, there's a way you can do this. So you can actually search for people. And so, for example, I set up a meeting with Krista Heiser from ODE a little bit while ago. And when I did that, I searched for her name within the calendar system here. And anything that's coming in this kind of greenish color, these are times that she's busy. So I created this one up here, this meeting that is titled Avoid at the top. And this is one way that I can actually say, all right, Krista, you've got some free time here. And it will kind of try to auto-populate and say Krista and Liz. And, you'll be able to, create either a Google Meet, or if you've got that Zoom integration embedded in there. And if you save, she'll be prompted with an invite as well. So a couple of different ways to, find and collaborate with people. And you can also add in different people. So if Krista, Emily, and I were all trying to get together, I can layer in those different calendars to try to figure out a time when we're all free to meet. Okay. So I'm not seeing any other questions. If you have any, please feel free to reach out. And let me grab, excuse me. I am putting together an essential skills like web page that is going to be a companion to this webinar series. It's currently under construction, but I will check back for those. If you need to reach out to me directly, here's my contact information, and thank you for watching. Thank you for watching this recorded webinar. Find upcoming webinars to register for at libcal.umflint.edu.